Andrea Silenzi, Nottingham Forest. In 1995, Forest brought in Silenzi from Torino, one of Serie A's top scorers, as Stan Collimore's replacement. He became the Premier League's first Italian player, but the move was a disaster. Silenzi failed to score in 12 league appearances, only 3 starts, and was quickly sent back to Italy on loan, never to return to Forest's first team, Didier Ndong. Sunderland. Sunderland broke their transfer record to sign Ndong from Lorient in 2016 for around £13.6 million. The Gabon midfielder underwhelmed as the club finished bottom of the Premier League. After Sunderland's subsequent relegation to League One, Ndong went AWOL, absent without leave, and the club eventually terminated his contract for breach of contract. He departed having never justified his fee. Papi Djilobodji, Sunderland. Signed by Sunderland from Chelsea in 2016 for about £8 million, the Senegalese defender endured a similarly woeful spell. Sunderland were relegated in his first season, and Djilobodji later returned from an agreed absence in terrible shape, failing the club's fitness tests. Like Ndong, he was released after refusing to report for training as Sunderland sought to cut their losses on his wages. Massimo Taibi, Manchester United. Brought in from Italy in 1999 as a potential successor to Peter Schmeichel, Taibi's United career lasted just 4 Premier League games. In that brief spell, he conceded 11 goals, including a notorious fumble of a tame Matthew Letitia shot that rolled through his legs against Southampton. Taibi was promptly dropped and shipped out, making him a lasting synonym for goalkeeping calamity. Francis Jeffers, Arsenal. Arsene Wenger splashed £13.8 million in 2001 to sign 20-year-old Jeffers as Arsenal's supposed fox-in-the-box poacher. It never panned out. Plagued by injuries and inconsistency, Jeffers scored just 4 Premier League goals in 3 seasons at Arsenal. Having failed to develop as hoped, he was offloaded in 2004 and is remembered as one of Arsenal's biggest transfer misfires. Konstantinos Kostas Mitroglou, Fulham. Fulham thought they had a coup in January 2014 when they paid a club record £11 to £13 million for Mitroglou, who had scored freely in Greece. Instead, the Greek striker barely featured. He logged only 153 goalless minutes for Fulham as they were relegated that season. Mitroglou never made another appearance for the club, returning to Olympiacos on loan and eventually being sold for barely half his fee. Marco Boogers, West Ham United. Boogers arrived from Sparta Rotterdam in 1995 for £650,000 and immediately became infamous. In only his second game, he received a red card for a wild lunge at Gary Neville. He made just 2 more appearances, 100 total Premier League minutes for West Ham. A false tabloid story, sparked by a misquote from a club official, claimed Boogers was living in a caravan back in the Netherlands during his suspension. A knee injury followed, and he soon returned to Holland, ending his brief and ill-fated English adventure. Nikola Žigić, Birmingham City. The 6'7" Serbian striker joined Birmingham in 2010 for £6 million. He did score in the 2011 League Cup final triumph over Arsenal, but his league contributions were modest. Žigić managed 5 goals in the Premier League before Birmingham were relegated. Stuck on a £50,000 per week contract with no wage reduction clause, he stayed for years in the Championship, where he scored more goals but became a financial burden. Manager Lee Clark even described one of the Žigic's training sessions as the worst he had ever seen. Michael Owen, Newcastle United. Newcastle shattered their transfer record to sign Owen from Real Madrid in 2005 at around £16 to £22 million. The expectation was that he would replace Alan Shearer. Unfortunately, the former Liverpool star's time on Tyneside was ruined by injuries. He missed most of his first 2 seasons, including a torn ACL at the 2006 World Cup, and played only 14 games in that period. Though he had a small resurgence later, Owen totaled just 26 goals across 4 years at Newcastle, a poor return that ended with him leaving on a free transfer. Owen Hargreaves, Manchester United. In 2007, United paid around £17 to £20 million for Hargreaves, a Champions League winning midfielder from Bayern. Initially, it seemed a good buy. He was pivotal in United's 2007-8 league and European double. However, chronic knee injuries derailed him soon after. Hargreaves made only 5 more league appearances for United over the next 3 seasons. He was released in 2011 after a brief 14-minute cameo for Manchester City, and soon retired, his prime cut painfully short. Seth Johnson, Leeds United. Johnson's 2001 move from Derby County to Leeds for about £7 to £10 million became a symbol of Leeds' ruinous early 2000s spending. An oft-repeated anecdote claims Johnson went into contract talks hoping for £13,000 a week, only for Leeds to mistakenly offer him £37,000. True or not, injuries meant Johnson barely contributed at Leeds. He made 59 appearances over 4 years. Crucially, the club benched him before a 60th appearance that would trigger an additional payment to Derby. Leeds' free-spending gamble backfired as Johnson's knee problems persisted, and he left on a free in 2005. Serhii Rebrov, Tottenham Hotspur. Rebrov arrived at Spurs in 2000 for a hefty £11 11 to 16 million pounds after thriving alongside Andrei Shevchenko at Dynamo Kyiv. In England, however, Rebrov never found his footing. He scored only 10 Premier League goals in 59 appearances for Tottenham, far below expectations. By his second season, he had fallen out of favor, just one league goal that year, and was eventually loaned out before leaving on a free, making him one of Spurs' most disappointing signings. Roberto Jimenez, West Ham United. The Spanish keeper Roberto Jimenez, known simply as Roberto, signed on a free in 2019 and proved disastrously out of his depth. Thrust into action due to an injury to starter Łukasz Fabianski, Roberto conceded 14 goals in his first 7 league games, even punching one shot into his own net. West Ham earned just a single point in those matches, a run so dire it cost manager Manuel Pellegrini his job. After fans lost all confidence in him, Roberto was dropped and the Hammers quickly brought in reinforcements. His contract was terminated not long after this calamitous spell. Janely Imbula, Stoke City. Imbula became Stoke's record signing in 2016 at 18 to 21 million pounds, but the midfielder turned into the face of Stoke's rapid decline. He managed only 26 Premier League appearances and 2 goals in a Stoke shirt. Imbula's form and attitude were so disappointing that he was demoted to the U23 squad and sent on multiple loans as the club spiraled to relegation. By early 2020, Stoke had terminated his contract 18 months early. Subsequent short stints in Spain and Italy also ended poorly, cementing Imbula's status as a big-money flop. Saido Berahino, Stoke City. Once a promising young striker at West Brom, Berahino's £12.5 million move to Stoke in January 2017 proved ruinous for club and player. He failed to score a single Premier League goal in 28 appearances, over 1,200 minutes for Stoke. His lack of fitness and off-field troubles coincided with Stoke's relegation in 2018. The following year, after a minor revival in the Championship, Stoke terminated Berahino's contract when he was charged with drunk driving. His fall from grace was swift, and he left England to try restarting his career abroad. Eliakim Mangala, Manchester City. City splurged more than £40 million in 2014 to make Mangala one of the world's most expensive defenders. Despite flashes of talent, he never justified the fee. Mangala's inconsistency saw him dropped by Manuel Pellegrini and completely sidelined under Pep Guardiola. He made only 79 league appearances in total for City, and after unsuccessful loans to Valencia and Everton, he was let go on a free in 2019. By that time, City had recouped none of his massive transfer fee, one of the largest value losses on a player in Premier League history. Jack Rodwell, Sunderland. Sunderland picked up Rodwell from Man City in 2014 for 10 to 11 million pounds, handing him a lucrative £70,000 per week contract with no relegation pay cut clause. That gamble backfired spectacularly. Rodwell struggled with form and fitness, contributing little as Sunderland were relegated in 2017. He then made only 3 league appearances the next season as they dropped again to League One. With the club paying him £43,000 per week in the 3rd tier, Sunderland negotiated to cancel Rodwell's contract. The once bright England prospect became a poster child for Sunderland's wasted spending and collapse down the divisions. Agustín Delgado, Southampton. Ecuador's star forward arrived at Southampton in 2002 for £5.2 million, but he barely played and often prioritized his national team over his club. In fact, Delgado logged only 65 minutes in his entire first Premier League season, while still managing to play for Ecuador at the 2002 World Cup. Recurring injuries and clashes with manager Gordon Strachan meant Delgado made just 2 starts and scored 1 goal in 3 years on the South Coast. Frustrated, Southampton even threatened to block him from joining another club until his contract expired. Delgado eventually left, having made a greater impact in international football than he ever did for the Saints. Kevin Davies, Blackburn Rovers. In 1998, Blackburn paid over £7.5 to £10 million to sign 21-year-old Davies after a promising season at Southampton. It proved a huge mistake. Davies scored just 1 Premier League goal in 21 appearances for Blackburn. The club that had been title contenders just a few years prior ended up relegated in Davies' only season there, and manager Brian Kidd was sacked. Davies was promptly sent back to Southampton in exchange for another player. While Davies later revived his career elsewhere, notably at Bolton, his time at Blackburn stands out as an expensive failure. Gaston Ramirez, Southampton. Southampton splashed £12 to £13.7 million to buy Ramirez from Bologna in 2012, seeing him as a rising star. The Uruguayan attacking midfielder started brightly, but after his first season his form collapsed. Over the following 3 seasons, Ramirez started only 3 league games for Saints and logged just 578 total minutes, recording a single goal and assist. He spent most of his time either benched or loaned out to Hull City and Middlesbrough. Given he was reportedly on about £65,000 per week wages, Ramirez became a costly luxury the club got virtually no return on before he left on a free. Alberto Aquilani, Liverpool. Tasked with replacing Xabi Alonso, Aquilani arrived at Liverpool from Roma in 2009 signed for £18 million, despite carrying an injury. The Italian playmaker never settled in England. He made only 18 league appearances, 9 starts, in his lone Premier League season, providing a modest 2 goals and 6 assists across all competitions. As injuries lingered and Rafa Benitez, who signed him, left the club, Aquilani was sent on loan to Italy twice before Liverpool sold him for a mere £1.8 million in 2012. Aquilani himself later admitted he wished he had never joined Liverpool. Steve Marliet, Fulham. In 2001, Fulham spent about £15 million to sign Marliet from Lyon, a move so poor it ended up in court. The French forward scored only 11 goals in 54 Premier League appearances for Fulham, mediocre output for the fee. Mohamed Al-Fayed, Fulham's owner, was so angry that he accused manager Sean Tagana of fraud and overpaying for Marliet, refusing to pay Tagana and taking him to court. Though failing to prove the claim, Marliet himself described his time at Fulham as hell. He left in 2003, and the transfer remains one of the club's worst pieces of business. Roger Johnson, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves' £7 million captain signing in 2011 turned into a nightmare. Brought from Birmingham City to shore up Wolves' defense, Johnson instead presided over a backline that fell apart. Wolves were relegated in his first season and even dropped to League One the next year. In 2012, Johnson was fined for turning up to training intoxicated, an incident that epitomized his disastrous spell. He never played for Wolves again after the double relegation and was offloaded. Johnson's leadership was meant to save the club. Instead, it coincided with one of Wolves' worst periods. David Bentley, Tottenham Hotspur. Touted as the next David Beckham, Bentley joined Spurs from Blackburn in 2008 for around £15 to £17 million, rising to nearly £20 million with add-ons. The winger completely lost his way at White Hart Lane. Despite a couple of highlights, like a famous long-range goal against Arsenal, Bentley scored only 2 goals and notched 5 assists in 42 league appearances for Spurs. His form and confidence collapsed. In a notorious moment, Bentley drenched manager Harry Redknapp with a tub of ice water during a post-match TV interview, which did not go over well. He spent the rest of his Spurs contract on loans, including a stint in Russia, before retiring in 2014 at just 29, having fallen out of love with the game. Bebe, Manchester United. Sir Alex Ferguson's most baffling signing. Bebe was bought in 2010 for £7.9 million on the recommendation of an assistant. Famously, Ferguson admitted he had never seen Bebe play. The Portuguese winger had a remarkable backstory, having played in a homeless World Cup, but he was nowhere near United's standard. Bebe made just 2 Premier League appearances, 75 minutes in total, and showed little to justify the gamble. He was quickly loaned out and eventually sold for a fraction of his cost. Bebe himself quipped that he might have been better off staying at his orphanage, underlining how out of depth he felt at Old Trafford. Alexis Sánchez, Manchester United. In January 2018, Manchester United beat rivals City to sign Sánchez from Arsenal in a swap deal, handing him an astronomical contract, reportedly around £390,000 per week, plus bonuses. It turned out to be a catastrophic move. The Chilean winger, once among the Premier League's best, scored only 3 league goals in 32 appearances for United. He looked a shadow of his former self, often injured and ineffective when played. By 2019, United had seen enough and loaned Sánchez to Inter Milan while still paying a large portion of his salary. He departed Old Trafford with his reputation diminished, regarded by many fans as one of United's worst ever signings given his enormous wages and minimal impact. Mario Balotelli, Liverpool. After selling Luis Suarez in 2014, Liverpool took a £16 million gamble on Balotelli, hoping the temperamental striker could revive his career at Anfield. It backfired spectacularly. Balotelli scored just 1 Premier League goal in 14 appearances for Liverpool. Manager Brendan Rodgers later admitted Balotelli was essentially a last resort option, and it showed. The Italian's lackluster work rate and off-field antics didn't help. Within a year, he was loaned back to AC Milan. Balotelli's flop hastened Rodgers' downfall. He was sacked a year after signing him, and new boss Jurgen Klopp let Balotelli leave on a free transfer in 2016, bringing an end to a forgettable chapter. Winston Bogarde, Chelsea. Bogarde signed for Chelsea on a Bosman free in 2000, agreeing to a lucrative £40,000 per week contract. Just days later, manager Gianluca Vialli was fired, and Bogarde was frozen out by new boss Claudio Ranieri. Rather than move to a club that would actually play him, the Dutch defender infamously chose to sit on his contract and collect his wages. Chelsea, unwilling to subsidize his pay elsewhere, refused to loan him out. Bogarde made only 9 Premier League appearances for Chelsea, all in his first season. For the remaining 3 years of his deal, he languished in the reserves, never playing another first-team game. His name became synonymous with highly paid deadweight, an example of pre-Abramovich Chelsea, nearly bankrupting themselves on a contract mistake. Thomas Brolin, Leeds. A star of Sweden's 1994 World Cup run, Brolin joined Leeds in 1995 for a then-club record £4.5 million. Unfortunately, a prior ankle injury and fitness issues meant Brolin never produced his Parma form in England. He scored 4 goals in 20 Premier League appearances. Not terrible, but he often looked out of shape and was played out of position. Frustrated with manager Howard Wilkinson, Brolin allegedly put in a deliberately poor performance in one match to force the club's hand. He left Leeds under acrimonious circumstances. At one point, the club even banned him from their stadium on match days, and was released in 1997. Brolin retired from football by age 28. His brilliance never recaptured after the ill-fated Leeds spell. Adrian Mutu, Chelsea. Adrian Mutu was one of Chelsea's first big-money signings under Roman Abramovich, joining from Parma in 2003. He made a fast start, scoring 4 goals in 4 games, but it quickly unraveled. In 2004, Mutu tested positive for cocaine, leading to his contract termination and a 7-month ban. Chelsea later won a landmark legal case against him, with the damages of around €17 million. Though he played elsewhere after, Mutu remains a cautionary tale at Stamford Bridge. Boško Balaban, Aston Villa. Boško Balaban is widely considered one of the Premier League's biggest flops. Signed by Aston Villa in 2001 for around £6 to £7 million, the Croatian striker came with a strong goal-scoring reputation but failed to deliver. He never started a league game, played just 138 minutes across 8 substitute appearances, and didn't score a single goal. Struggling even in reserve matches, Balaban was eventually loaned out and paid off to leave. His disastrous stint remains one of the most infamous transfer failures in Premier League history. Ricky Alvarez, Sunderland. Sunderland's 2014-15 loan deal for Ricky Alvarez turned into one of football's most bizarre transfer disasters. They agreed to buy him from Inter Milan for £9.5 million if they avoided relegation, which they did. But Alvarez played just 13 times due to injury, and Sunderland tried to cancel the deal, citing medical concerns. They lost the legal battle and had to pay Inter, yet never finalized a permanent contract with Alvarez. He later joined Sampdoria on a free. The fallout sparked lawsuits involving Sunderland, Inter, Alvarez, and even a youth club demanding compensation. Sunderland paid millions for a player who never officially belonged to them. Danny Drinkwater, Chelsea. Danny Drinkwater's £35 million transfer to Chelsea in 2017 is often cited as a textbook flop. A key figure in Leicester's 2016 title win, he never settled at Stamford Bridge. He made just 12 league appearances in his first season, then vanished from the first team after Antonio Conte's exit. Off-field troubles followed, including a nightclub brawl and a fight during a loan at Villa. Loan spells brought few minutes, yet he earned £100,000 per week until his 2022 release. Drinkwater later apologized to fans, calling the move a business deal gone wrong. Costly reminder that success in one setup doesn't always translate elsewhere. Ali Dia, Southampton. Ali Dia's Premier League cameo is the stuff of football infamy. In 1996, Southampton manager Graham Souness received a call, allegedly from George Weah, recommending his cousin Ali Dia. It was a prank. Dia was a semi-pro with no real pedigree, yet the Saints, desperate for players, signed him to a 1-month deal. Incredibly, Dia was brought on in a match against Leeds. He lasted just 53 minutes before being subbed off, clearly out of his depth. Teammate Matt Letizier later joked he ran around like Bambi on ice. The hoax was exposed, Dia was released 2 weeks later, and the legend was born.